happy birthday. That's right. And unless you've been sleeping under a rock somewhere, you know that tomorrow is America's 245th birthday. On July 4th, 1776, 56 members of the Continental Congress, representing 13 colonies, signed the Declaration of Independence proclaiming autonomy. Okay? The stand these 56 signers took against the British, unfortunately, is not being taught in our schools today. But you know what? It should be. I'd like to read a sentence from the Declaration, and it reads, and I quote, "And for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor." You know, sadly today we hear by some that our forefathers wanted God out of the framing of this great nation. They obviously skipped over reading that particular passage, didn't they? Of course, we know that our founders and our founding fathers didn't want any type of state religion, okay? But somehow, in some way, how they conclude that they wanted God out of the framework of this great country, I can never understand. Today, this declaration, let's face it, seems benign, okay? Not even raising a little bit of your eyebrows. But let me assure you, to those 56 signers, it did more than raise eyebrows. 1/3 of them lost everything that they had ever worked for. 9 had fought and died because of the hardships and the wounds that they acquired from the war. 12 had their homes ransacked and burned. So why? Why were these men so willing to risk everything, their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor, when they could have lived in peace and in comfort? So why? Because, brethren, they believed freedom was infinitely more desirable than bondage. They believed freedom was worth fighting for, and they knew that freedom was not free. They joined the fight in freedom by risking everything that they had. Today, we call it skin in the game. What about us? Do we have skin in the game? Are we willing to risk everything? You know, as the colonists opposed the King of England 245 years ago, for this great country's freedom, Jesus Christ defeated Satan for our eternal freedom. Everyone that accepts Christ's proclamation signs a declaration of independence, declaring war on the enemy of our eternal spiritual life. So in case you didn't catch it, today my sermonette is entitled Our Spiritual Declaration of Independence. Our Spiritual Declaration of Independence. And with that, I'd like to present 2 points to define what this declaration means to us and, of course, to all Christians. Point number 1 is our conversion is a declaration of war. Our conversion is a declaration of war. There is no place for spiritual pacifism in a Christian's life. You and I are at war against Satan. And if we fail to engage this enemy or even underestimate him, he will and he can defeat us. Our war is not just one of defense, but also a strong offense, brethren. Just as the colonists had a strong leader in George Washington, we have a proven leader in Jesus Christ that has the weapons and the plan for complete and total victory. Now, we know that freedom, whether it be physically or spiritually, is not free. And we must take up spiritual arms and claim the freedoms that we have been promised. Let's turn to Matthew 10, brethren. Matthew 10. I'm going to start there because really I want to tell you that we were never promised a rose garden, except maybe the thorns. But in Matthew 10, it reads, "Do not think that I brought you peace. I did not come to bring peace to this world, for I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's foes will be those of his own household." Now we know how the scenario plays out. God opens your mind. You accept his terms as he defines them. Sabbath days, holy days, his commandments. And because of these truths, the persecutions begin, even from members in our own family. Why? Why? Because God has given you the understanding. And Satan will take every opportunity he can and every means to destroy that truth, even from within our own families. In 2 Corinthians 10, Paul tells us about this war, who we're fighting, what weapons we need, and what is required for us to bring into captivity for our victory. In 2 Corinthians 10, verses 3 through 5, it says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war according to the flesh. For the weapons of the warfare are not carnal, but mighty in God for pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity for the obedience of God." Brethren, this is a battle for our very minds, and as a direct result, for our very spiritual lives. This war is between what this world has been deceived to perceive as truth and what God actually tells us is truth. You know, it boggles my mind, and I'm sure a lot of you have thought about this, that our thoughts are not God's thoughts. Our ways are not God's ways. You can read that at your own convenience on Isaiah 55, 8 and 9, and how great the differences are. Let me give you just a few examples. Christians believe that life is created in God's image and it's sacred. We believe in the sanctity of human life and do not condone the indiscriminate aborting of unborn babies. But to the world, abortion is just a choice, just another form of birth control. Another example, we believe in morality, revealed in the Ten Commandments. On the other hand, the world writes its laws in the sand, and is willing to change whenever the tides come and go. Is this war becoming clearer to you? How about your eyebrows? Are they raising just a little bit to understand what's actually going on? Brethren, we must never forget to uphold the standards set forth in God's Word in this book, which I now call our spiritual declaration of independence. Point 2. Our conversion is a declaration of separation. Our conversion is a declaration of separation. In the Declaration of Independence, the colonists made it clear that they wouldn't be tied to Britain in any way, shape, or form. The document reads, and I quote, "We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the supreme judge of the world." Another one of those verses that they seem to have forgotten. "For the restitute of our intentions do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiances to the British Crown, and that all political connections between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved." Our forefathers knew that they could not be free and remain colonies of Great Britain. They declared their sovereignty, and they fought until they won total and complete separation. Have we secured our declaration of separation? You know, when you were baptized and you accepted Christ, we signed that spiritual declaration that we would break from everything that God rejects and would willfully fight to resist Satan and his false ways. Paul speaks of it. You don't have to turn there, but in Galatians 5:1, he speaks of our Christian liberty. In Galatians 5:1, he says, "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty by which Christ has made us free, and do not be entangled again with a yoke of bondage." So are you standing firm? Or are you breaking away from that yoke of bondage? How can you do that? Are there ways to do it? Well, let me give you some examples. No surprises here. These are ways, though, that we need to be training every day if we're going to be in the army of God. 1, pray daily. Pray daily. There's a new one, right? Christ said to pray. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. 2, study and rehearse your Declaration of Independence daily so that you can totally understand your plan for victory in this book. Let it seep into every part of your being. Your body, your soul, your mind becomes part of you. And 3, and most importantly, invite the living presence of God to envelop and empower you so that you can draw from the arsenal that God presents to us. As a matter of fact, we sing about that in our hymnal on page 170 where it says, fight the good fight. And that's taken from Ephesians 6, verses 10 through 20. Read that at your convenience. And finally, in Revelations 3, brethren, Revelations 3, heed Christ's warning to be on guard. Not to become Laodicean, but to remain steadfast and complete our life's mission. In Revelations 3, verses 14 through 16, it says, and to the angel of the church of Laodicean write, these things say the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish you were cold or hot. So then, because you are lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, I will spew you out of my mouth. Brethren, one of the greatest threats to our spiritual salvation, our spiritual victory, is to be lethargic and do nothing to resist evil. Each one of us must stand up and join the army of God while moving forward under the direction of God's anointing spirit. To pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. The time is now, brethren, to make our conversion a living declaration of war and separation against Satan and anything that stands in our way for complete and total victory. Brethren, as our forefathers had the courage and vision to set the path for a new and great nation for those that would follow, let us have the courage and the vision to follow the path that God has paved to a new and great kingdom that will last forever with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to close just with a little story here where I think God is striving to take us. You might relate to it. It's the story of an eagle that was captured at a young age. Its captor held it in bondage so it couldn't fly. But he let it roam the barnyard. Okay, it wasn't long before the eagle became acting like the chickens, scratching and pecking the ground for his whole existence. Now, this great and magnificent bird that once soared the magnificent skies was satisfied to live like a chicken. One day a shepherd came to the farm. Seeing the eagle, he said, "What a shame to have this magnificent bird hobbled here in this barnyard." And he asked the captor, "Won't you set it free?" And the captor agreed. He said, "Yes, I'll do that." So he cut off its restraints. But so used was the routine of this eagle that it continued in the barnyards, continually scratching and pecking for its own existence. Now, of course, the shepherd, knowing its potential, set this magnificent bird on a high perch. And for the first time since its captivity, the eagle saw the expanse of the great horizon and the brilliant sky. And as it spread its wings, a miraculous and a tremendous wind lifted it into the heavens. And it once again became the eagle that it was created to be. Brethren, if you're going to be free to soar and be that which God created you to be, then you will have to learn to break from that barnyard mentality. We have to come out of their midst and be totally separate and declare your spiritual declaration of independence. Have a great Sabbath. and have a very safe holiday weekend.